Okay, this is the second tutorial to complete the tutorials on for the survey project on how to use Excel and to gather the data that you will need to write your discussion and conclusions. Before I begin, just realize if you do have a question about anything in this video, the other video, or anything regarding these spreadsheets, it would be a good idea to take a screenshot of exactly what the problem is and sending it to either Ms. Rosari or me, because that's the only way that we can help you, is if we can see what it is you're talking about. Just asking a question means nothing to us. We need to be able to see what it is, because all this spreadsheet stuff really is based off of, are these formulas correct? Are they saying what you think they're saying? And so we would need to be able to see that in a picture. Okay. One tip before I get to the final formula, this tutorial is really going to be on the Countif formula. This is the results for the fear survey, which if you watched the other video, you saw the creation of all this information. Here is a tip, though, something that I didn't mention before. If you do ask a question that is a 1 to 5 question, but you didn't ask them to click 1 to 5, like, 1 for me on the survey means, they have no fear of being alone. 2 means some fear. Now, if I had asked that question and the answer here, instead of it saying 1, said some fear or no fear or much fear, then dealing with those words is difficult in order to get this information, which is what you need. So what you should do is, if you did ask a question like that where you can convert it to a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you should do that. And the easiest way to do that is, if, for example, if this said no fear instead of it saying 1, you should insert a column to the right where you can label it if you want and be like column 4 or whatever. If this said no fear, then I'll be like, oh, that means 1. There we go. And then therefore you'll end up with a column of information that you can then use. And then you can total it and you can use it for your discussion and whatnot. That is just a tip there. Okay, now, I know I say a lot. I didn't notice that while doing these. The first 2 formulas that I showed you were the Counta formula, Counta, and the sum formula. The Counta formula is designed to count anything in the range that you tell it to look at. So the computer has no idea what is written in here, in this range. All it is doing is counting that, hey, there's information here, so that's a 1, so that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and it just counts. Oh, this square isn't empty, I'm counting it. So for the fact that this says 79 female, it doesn't say 79 female. I said that the 79 means female, but when it's counting, it doesn't say female here. It just counts in the range that I tell it to count in, which was the female range, which was this section right here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's simply counting. It's not looking for anything, and that's what the Countif formula will do. It will look for things in the list that you tell it to look for. Okay, so we are going to be doing that in this example. Instead of using my results, I'm going to use a student's Bravo groups, because they didn't have a single question that was 1 to 5. And so I guess it's the best way to demonstrate how useful it is. Now, with the Countif formula, it counts what you tell it to count. So technically, you do not necessarily need the Counta formula for this where you could actually make this a Countif formula and just have it look at the whole range. All right, count how many males appear here, count how many not listed appear here, count how many females appear here. Instead of using counta, you could use Countif. The problem is with total, you'd want to do count, so that way it just counts everything instead of a specific thing. So to demonstrate, we're going to be doing it on here. Now, I'm not going to make it this as detailed as the other one where I'm doing all the headers and all these kind of things. You should be able to figure that out for yourself. Again, if I cough, I apologize. I'm still getting over me being sick. Now, to demonstrate how to write the formula, I will do it simply for this column right here. Now, the formula is as simple as this. It's equals count if parentheses. You tell it the range. This is where you're telling it, hey, look from here to here. And we're going to be doing column B for this one. So this will be B2 because these 1 is always the header. So it always starts with a 2. Colon to B140 because that's the last one over here. Now, in the other tutorial, you saw me clicking and dragging. The reason I'm not doing that right now is because I don't have a mouse and I'm using my keyboard. So I know the numbers, so I'm just typing them in. So you put the range in. So for this one, it's B2 colon B140, comma, quotes, and then you tell it what to look for specifically. So say I want to count male. Now, if you notice here, I didn't capitalize it, and it is capitalized here. You can capitalize it whether you want to or not. Either way, the word is spelled correctly, and that's what it's looking for. It's looking for those letters. Okay? So if I misspell male, it's not going to find any. So if I put males, it's got nothing. It's got 0. So let's do it correctly. Male. So what I typed was equals count if parentheses the range B2 colon to B140 comma quote mark. I tell it the word to look for. Okay, so now it's a smart algorithm. Now it's looking for this word. I end the quote, then I end the parentheses. Let's look for males. How many males are there? There's 68 males who took this survey. Just like that. Now, let's see. Do we have only male and female here? Now, oh, this is actually, before I continue on, see this right here? Someone typed stainless steel toaster. For someone who was inconsiderate enough to do that, then they should be, that entire row should be removed and just deleted. And you do that by clicking on the number, right-clicking, and then delete row. But I'll let this group take care of that for themselves. Now I don't see any not listed, so we'll do a Countif for female. So it's equals Countif parentheses, and we're going to do, this is B2 to B140, comma, quotes, female, end quotes, and parentheses, enter. So we have 68 males and 69 females. Okay? Now, there's one more thing that we can do with the Countif formula. Now, say you have multiple things you're looking for. You know, you want to write about an answer that, you know, has multiple options, multiple ways people can answer it, and you want to either talk about more than one answer or have the option of more than one answer. You know, in my survey, if I had a whole bunch of 1s and 2s, 1s means no fear, 2 means some fear. So if I want to write in general about, hey, you know, 43 students showed little to no fear, if I want to write about it that way, then how do I get that combined number of just ones and twos here, or, you know, or, of 17 and 16-year-olds but not 18-year-olds, or of C to B students and B to A students but not D students? So how do we get the number for two things? So what we what we could do is, for example, here we did one for male, we did one for female, and you can do that for this as well. You could do one for B to A, one C to B, and then if people are being honest, one for D to C. You could do them all separate, or you can write it as one big formula. So say I wanted to find out females and males together. Now I can simply add the two. I can do this plus this, which would give me 137, or I can do the combination Countif formula equals Countif parentheses, and we will do B2 to B140 comma quotes, oh wait a minute, comma quotes male, end quotes, and parentheses. So now we're looking for male again. Now we're gonna also look for female. So how do we do that? We hit plus Countif, same thing now all over again, B2 to B140. And what this allows you to do as well, female, end quotes, and things. What this allows you to do as well is to choose maybe a variety of ranges to search in. What you can also do is, it doesn't have to be in the same column. Say I want to know how many students, I wanted to count how many were male in this row and count how many are B to A in this row. And then it will give me a combination of both numbers. So you can change where these things are to suit your needs. So now we're going to count male and female together. So we get 137 total. Okay. Now, did this group do not listed like I asked them to? There's stainless steel toaster, helpful. Well, I don't see it. Okay, so we have 137. There we go. I added those two numbers together, and it was able to count both, if you see in the formula over here. Actually, while we're doing this, maybe we should zoom in a little so you can see a little bit. Yeah, a little bit better. So now let's do one where they're actually going to use it, because in truth, if they had followed the first tutorial, this won't apply to this column because they'll have sorted it, all this information, by this column. Sort A to Z. So we have female, male, and actually these are the ones I had put in, so we need to hold on. I forgot. I need to remove these things in order for this to function properly. Okay. So if we sort by A to Z, we get stainless steel toaster, and we get both. I don't know how both was an option, because it shouldn't have been if they had listened to directions. So again, we'll let this group deal with their problems. And this is something, by the way, just to let you know, that me and Mr. Rosari will notice in the scoring, because it's going to take a while for us to score these things. And we're going to be very careful about it. Me and him have put a lot of work into preparing you and into creating these types of things. So we're looking for you to put some work in what you produce to hand back into us. Now, back to the tutorial. Now, say, so we're going to be tracking here. We're going to be tracking this information right here. What is your grade average? Now, we can do it based on gender. So this group, let me take a look here. This group has gender demographic, has an age demographic, which if you remember in the other tutorials, we don't want using age. And they have the do you play video games demographic. So they should have a spreadsheet for gender and a spreadsheet for do you play video games, and look at how people answer the questions based off of these two demographics. So you know what, for this one we are going, for this tutorial we're going to do it based off of this, the no and yes. No, I don't play video games, and yes, I do play video games. So we're going to see if there's a difference in grades for the students who do and do not play video games. So now, we're going to do equals Countif. Now we are going to search. What we can do, well, what we're going to want to do is to do a total. So we're going to do a total first. So we're going to go E2. Okay. So Countif parentheses E2 to E140, and then comma, and we're going to search, let's see how they typed it. We'll search B2A. We'll search B to A, close that, and that gets us a total of 79 students who think they're B to A students. That's kind of funny. So that gives us, so this will be total B to A. So that's how we would do that. And then we could do total C to B, D to C, and then that way you have your total numbers, and that gives you something to work off of that you can then get your averages from later, and that kind of thing. So that could be the entire demographic. That's what we're working with. So now, so that can give you that. Now, so now we have it. No and yes. So now this does the total B to A. So let's just find out yes B to A. Now how I'm typing this in and the look of it all, this wouldn't be for the final product, but this is just for this tutorial. Again, this looks nice, when it's all done and you've given some thought to it. So this is just to show you how this works. So yes, BDA. So we'll do equals count if parentheses. Let's go. Where does yes start? Yes starts. Lots of yeses. Lots of people play video games. Yes. E28 to E140. Comma. Quotes. Let's do B space A. Close that. Now, did I do that right? That is not right. What did I do wrong? See, there we go. That's how you know you did something wrong. I put in 2 of those. That is incorrect. Enter. There we go. So 64 of those 79 kids who play video games, are B to A. So we get 64 of the B to A students who said yes out of 64. So now for this to make total sense, we would need to know the total number we're working off of. So we can do it. We'll do a real simple equals count formula. Let's count how many yeses we're working with. We'll do that, and we'll drag it. That is easy to do. So of the 115 yeses, 64 said they're B to A students. So in your write-up and this kind of thing, and this is how we do it. I mean, it's as simple as that. I just found out how many did it. So let's do equals, and what was the range? Hold on. What was the range? It's E28. All right, so equals count if E28 to E140, comma, quotes. The next one is C to B, end quotes. So 42 said they were C to B students. And then I imagine the other thing is D to C. And then we have F to D. All right. So I'll just do this really quick. Equals Countif E28 to E140 quotes. And then we have we're doing D. That's right. D to C. And that 5 said they were D to C students. That's a bold-faced lie. And then equals Countif E28 to E140, comma, quotes, and then we're going to have F to D and 2. Okay, and then we can label it properly over here. There's 115 total yes, and what we can figure out from there is, this is actual number, right? Yes, B to A, actual number, right? So then we can figure out the averages from there. So there's, so yeah, yes, B to A average. So what does 64 mean? 64 of 115 said they have A's. So let's find out what that means. So it would be equals, you take that number, we divide it by this number, and we get, was that 55%? Yeah, 56%. So 56% of students who play video games say they are A to B students, so that they're B to A students, however you want to write it, that they're good students, okay? So that allows us to do that, to be able to see that. And you can break down every question that way. So yes, students who play video games, right, spend this much time playing those video games, okay? And then you can draw little lines. I mean, considering there's only 5 students that consider themselves D to C students, it would be interesting to see if there's a difference in how much time they spend doing these things versus the other students who say that they're not those kind of students. Okay? All right, so this would then be the entire section for yes, right? And then right below it, you would do the entire section for no. And then we could count how many no students say they're A to B, okay? Which should be not as many, because that says there's 79 total and 64 of them say they play video games, so that's not going to be that many kids. So either way, hopefully this gives you an idea of how it works. So we can do count if, you tell it the range, it equals count if, parentheses, you tell it the range, comma, quote, you tell it what to look for, end quote. And by the way, it doesn't just have to be words, it can be numbers as well. You can search number, it can search anything. It searches what you tell it to look for. Look for these letters and numbers in this range, and then it will count those. It won't add them together. That's what sum is for. That's what's going on over here. We have sum. Okay, that adds it together. That's a whole different thing. This is simply counting, and it's a way to count this information based on a demographic in a fast and correct way. So that way you at least know, all right, my survey is on video game players. I have 115 students who said that they do play video games, and that 64 of those students say they're A to B students. All right, that's about 56%. You know, it's probably better to talk about the percents. Okay, and then you can start to talk about these other things. So, how many of those yes students say that this positively helps them? Okay, or it negatively hurts their, let's see, you're repeating, how have video games impacted your life? That's a little general. That's not a well-written question. They should have been impacted maybe school or something like that. Would have made more sense. Anyway, then you can start to try and draw comparisons. You know, how many of these negative students also have bad grades? You know, that kind of thought is the next step. That is what should appear in the discussion for students who didn't do a survey where it's 1 to 5. The students who did 1 to 5 questions, your write-up in discussion is so much easier to do because it's so easy to get the meaning and to be able to compare the meaning to the demographic. This is much harder to do. This is much harder to compare because there's all these questions give you such different information that it's hard to compare to because it's words. And the words have vastly different meanings than giving it a score. Because the score is the score is the score. And you can talk about one score versus another score easily. This is a different animal, and it's much harder to talk about because, you know, all right, our demographic here is yes or no, do you play video games? Okay, how many of those yes students are B to A? Okay, good. Now, of those B to A students, how many said that this was negative? And you can see where now it becomes difficult to really track the information. So for students who are dealing with questions like this, or this group specifically, because all your questions are like this, you're going to have a lot of stuff going on down here. And what I expect, and what Mr. Rosari expects, I mean, it doesn't need to be as clean as this example, but what you need is you need to label it as best you can, and you need to label it in a fashion where you understand and I understand the information you're gathering, okay? And that you can somehow tell me what these other questions mean in regard to this demographic, the gender demographic, or the video game demographic, or whatever your demographics are. Remember, it just has to be on 2, okay? You just have to pick 2 demographics. So if you have race and something else or whatever, so for this group it should be gender and do you play video games, okay? And then you're comparing these answers to those demographics. Hey, males look at it this way, that kind of stuff, okay? You can also compare demographics between each other. It would be interesting to see how many men and women do and do not play video games as well. I mean, that's another comparison within itself. There's a lot of different things here. So what you need to do is kind of plan out, all right, I want to get the information for this question, for this for the question, and for this question, and this is what I'm looking for, okay? And in the end, you just need to figure out what it means, okay? And that's what all these formulas are doing. The counta, the sum, and the countif are allowing you to look at all of this information you gathered and to try and pull meaning from it. What does this say about people who do this? What does this say about women? What does this say about video game players? What does this say about Hispanics who do this? Okay? And then you can compare it between groups. And then maybe you'll notice a pattern in behavior, and that's the end goal. Okay? For my fear survey, what I'm really looking for is patterns in behavior based on gender. Okay? Is one gender more afraid of being alone than another? Is one gender more fearful of death or less fearful or equal? Those kind of things. So that's what you're looking for overall in this. Thank you. If you have any questions, please ask.